Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Now, welcome back. It's a football special on the show this evening. It's a Paddy Power Special with thanks to Paddy's week-long session, a monster rollover of betting specials just for Ireland. For information on responsible gambling, you can visit gamblingcare.ie or dunlewey.net, dunlewey.net. Now, very happy to say we have a three-time Premier League winner, four-time FA Cup winner, amongst other things, Ray Parlour with us. Ray, how you doing?
How you doing, guys? How are you?
Yeah, good. Great to have you with us. So lots to talk about in the world of football at the moment. Are you missing being at games, or are you getting along to a few games as a media type?
Yeah, I was lucky to go the weekend. I went to Luton v Preston, and there was 2,000 fans there, and it was a really good atmosphere. It was great to be back in the stadium with fans, and you could see the excitement before the game. It's a situation where it was unbelievable, really. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to obviously being back there. And obviously going to games very soon.
And in normal times, they feel like a long time ago now. Would you go to the Emirates a lot? What would be your matches of choice?
I would always go to the Arsenal. I'll probably go Arsenal every home game if I can. So I don't miss many home games. A couple of away games here and there. But yeah, I do enjoy a Saturday as well. At the moment, obviously, Arsenal in the Europa League. So at home, they're playing a lot on a Sunday, which is ideal for me. So I can go to a game on Saturday and Sunday, which is brilliant because obviously the ex-pros, you can't play anymore, but you love watching it still. Do
you ever find it difficult to watch it? Do you get a twitch in your foot and a tapping and, Jesus, I just want to be out there so much, or is generally that's long in the past now? No,
you do miss it. You do miss the buzz. Look, it's a little bit different in this stage at the moment because there's no fans. You do get the real buzz when you're walking out of that stadium and the fans are there. And look, even away from home, you get a buzz still. You see the little pocket of away fans, but you know places like Anfield and Old Trafford, it's a joy come true for me, a dream come true. Sorry for me as a player to walk out in front of plenty of fans and the atmosphere. Look, you get a bit of stick as well, which was all part of the fun. But yeah, you do miss it definitely.
Because you seemed, and I could be totally wrong because you can misread people from afar, obviously, but you seemed like a player who enjoyed his football, who really enjoyed the buzz, who didn't feel overly weighed down by the pressure of the thing or the media or the abuse from the fans. You seem to accept the whole package and really enjoy it.
Well, that's the most important thing, if you can handle pressure. And obviously, if you're playing for a big side, which we was, not so much now, but, in those days we were, and trying to win trophies, you can't handle. You've got to be handle pressure. Pressure is every single game. It's the same for teams in relegation battles as well. You've got to be able to handle big situations when you need to win a game. You've got to be calm. You've got to be, know exactly what your job is as a player, and do it. And if you do your job and you've got 11 players or 10 players around you doing the same job as you and doing their jobs, usually you've got a chance of winning a game. So yeah. Of course, you get stick. Everybody gets stick. As long as it's banter and a bit of fun, it's no problem whatsoever. But yeah, I seem to really enjoy the big games, and lucky enough, Arsene Wenger picked me for quite a few of them.
Yeah, he did. I mean, there were some big names, obviously, around your time. Some very glamorous players, some phenomenal players, some of the best players Arsenal and the Premier League have ever seen. And in the midst of it all, there you were, and Wenger really liked you. I mean, he picked you. I think are you still the record Premier League holder, or you're there or thereabouts? So even in the midst of an era where you were very successful, where new players were arriving, Overmars leaves, Perez comes in, there was plenty of turnover, the back four changed. There was something about Ray Parlour that Arsene Wenger quite liked. What was that, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he done a forward in my book, and he said, I didn't even realise he had the appearance record. So he wants to thank me for picking him every week. So, yeah, I mean, we had a good relationship. I think he knew what I could give the team. Because it ain't about individuals, it's about the team every single week. You've got people who can score goals, you've got people who are going to defend the goal, you've got people who win the ball back. I was probably in that category. But yeah, we had a really good team ethic. I was pretty good around the dressing room as well. I mean, I was a bit of fun behind the scenes, and the lads loved it. The foreign guys really embraced that. So I think, I just had a really good relationship with Arsene Wenger. I wasn't injured too often either, which that is so important in a footballer, because once you get in your stride and you're playing week in, week out, if you have a bad game, you could get left out, but you've got to make sure every game you have a 7 or 8 out of 10, and you'll be playing the following week. So I was lucky in that respect. I didn't get too many injuries either.
And Ray, was Wenger the type who'd pull you into the office for a chat, who'd know your parents' names and know your family's name? Or was he involved in your life outside of football, or was he more of a keep a distance type?
No. He was. If you had any problems, you could go and see Arsene Wenger. He was very good like that. I think the French guys, especially, because they looked at him as a father figure. Patrick Vieira, Robert Perez, and people like that at the club at the time. Thierry as well. So yeah, I mean, he had a really good. He was a really nice man as well. As much as a great manager, he was a nice man. He understood people's problems at times, and I think he was just a genuinely nice guy. And he didn't like a lot of confrontation. He didn't like when people were going wrong, or you're left out, you want to go and see the manager, why but you left me out. He didn't like all that sort of side of it. But if you had any problems, he was the one who could give you the best advice, maybe to solve them.
Yes, he does seem like a wise old soul. Even when he was younger, exactly. I suspect he was that type. I could imagine good advice coming from Wenger. Did he ever help you out with anything and you thought, ooh, yeah, it was great to be able to rely on him then?
Really, I mean, after I got divorced, he probably said, you should have got a better solicitor. But, but he was always a nice guy. I mean, if you had any sort of problems, we're human beings at the end of the day. I know you're a football player, but you get your problems family-wise as well. And, if any guys had a bit of a problem, they'd always ask the players would ask each other advice as well. And it was nice the players could bounce off each other. But obviously the manager was a very important figure. If you had to have a day off or something and you would go and see him, say, look, boss, this is the situation. And he'd try and help you out as much as he could. Which is, I think most players who played under Arsene Wenger, when they left, would have a bad word to say about him. Even if he didn't play you week in, week out, you always left in a nice sort of way. And that's credit to Arsene Wenger.
If there's two parts to the Wenger era, obviously there's that first initial part, which is outrageously successful. And goodness me, all of the signings were so brilliant and he seemed just ahead of his time, be it diet or even style of football. And then the second half, it seemed to wilt by the standards he had set. Now, it's tricky for you to answer because you weren't really there for the second part of his tenure. But what was strange was that, there were constant problems. The back four couldn't get sorted out. And, geez, Wenger, I knew the value of a great back four. He inherited a great one and he put together another great one. So you kind of wondered why that wasn't a priority for him in the same way, or why he couldn't crack that one. And then the other thing, Ray, was that, the teams you played on played such brilliant football, be it Henry and Ashley Cole and Pires causing havoc and, beautiful, symmetrical passing, AstroTurf style football. And even that seemed to kind of go. Could you make sense of that when you were looking in as a former player as to how this guy with this magical touch had somehow, I don't want to say lost it, that's the wrong phrase, but something wasn't right?
Well, certainly, investment is so important. At that time when I was playing, he knew the market in France. He picks up some unbelievable bargains. If you look at the transfer fees they paid, I mean, Vieira, 3.5 million maximum. Anelka at the time, 500,000. Perez was cheap, 4 or 5 million. Overmars, 5 million. So he knew that sort of market. And I think going forward, it was a lot of the other clubs found out about the market, and suddenly you're competing with different teams then. And I don't know what the budget was like at Arsenal. I didn't see that at the time. But one thing for me, which was missing for my teams, is when we had a problem, the players used to sort it out big time. I mean, we used to have meetings on our own and say, what was you doing? What was you doing? And he sometimes started the meeting and we'll have a big argument. Criticism is no problem when it's structured. And, because it's all about winning games, our livelihood at stake. It's trophies to win. So if someone's at fault, you sometimes stand up and say, look, it was my fault, it won't happen again. And you get on with it. And I don't think they've got them sort of characters now. If you wasn't doing your job in my era, you get told straight away on the pitch as well. You wouldn't look at the manager to say, what do we do? You sort it out yourselves. And, you had good leaders there. You had Martin Keown, you had Tony Adams behind me. You had Patrick Vieira in central midfield. And, you pull people into positions. If he was under the cosh, down my side, I would say, right, okay, I'm going to sit in front of Lee Dixon. Usually it's common sense to do that as a player. But I look at it now, and I don't think they sort problems out quick enough. Before you know it, you're 2-0 down. And then you can't get back in the game. So I think the lack of leaders, and I'm not just saying Arsenal, I'm talking about across the board sometimes, if you look at different certain teams, that is lacking a little bit now.
Well, however bad they got under Wenger, they feel a whole lot worse now at the moment. Arsenal feel a very long way away from former glory. So they're 15th, 5 points off relegation. Burnley obviously won at the Emirates. That's a 4th consecutive home league defeat. First time since 1959. These are scary records to be breaking. So what's going on? What's the word? It seems like an unhappy camp right now.
Yeah, it does indeed. You know, I'm not changing the dressing room area. I don't know what the characters are in there to try and sort it out. As I said before, you need certain players to say, look, come on, we've got to do better. You know, you look at the skipper, Aubameyang. Yeah, look, he's off form at the moment. We know what he can do. He's a superb player. But I always like someone at the back to be skipper. I really do. And probably for me, I would highlight someone, you know, in Europe, or someone who's been a leader in their team. You know, it might not be great on the ball, but he can organise people, and that's what I'd look at in January. I think they're missing someone who, you know, he's a 6 or 7 out of 10 every week, but he's a leader, and he can organise people around him to make sure you don't concede too many goals. But yeah, it is a worry, I'm sure. Someone asked me the question the other day, can they get relegated? I said, well, probably not. But then you look at Leicester winning the league 5,000 to 1, and you know they won it, so they can get relegated if they don't start picking up points and start turning it around. Then there's a real problem there. But they've got to sort it out themselves. And I'm sure the manager does get the blame. Of course he does, because he's the manager. He picks a team, he picks the tactics. But sometimes the players have got to look at themselves as well. And I always look at the players when they walk off that pitch at the end of the game. You know, do they look in their mirror after and say, do you know what? I could have done 15% more today, or 20% more. And if you've got 7 players thinking that, then there's a problem. Because if they did do that, you'll probably win the game. So I think the players, and soon he's got to make a big decision whether, you know, he puts a few youngsters in and leaves the more experienced players out because they're not doing it for him at the moment, and give Willock an opportunity, and give, you know, guys who are on the verge of being in the first team, who play in the Europa League, but, you know, give them an opportunity to play.
The other worry is when the phrase "lost the dressing room" starts creeping out in the media. You never like to see that. David Luiz's representatives have come out in the last few days and strongly denied the reports that Luiz and Arteta are no longer speaking. And, you know, we're on the outside, we don't know, and yet there's obviously a worry. There's no smoke without fire, and you kind of wonder what's going on there. I mean, Arteta's under pressure. Like, do you think he's under pressure for his job in the short term? Is that how serious this has become?
I wouldn't say. I don't think Arsenal are a sacking club. Look, I'm sure there's despair out there at the moment for the Arsenal fans. You hear them after, you know, another defeat. What we doing, and where are we sitting in the league? We was hoping, you know, after the FA Cup win last season, that would give them a massive lift and confidence, belief to go forward and be pushing for that top 4. At the moment, they'll be, you know, they're pushing for halfway if they start getting the results to turn around. So that is a problem. It does worry me. Dressing rooms are so important. And I think, again, I'll go back to my era. I mean, George Graham was the most important person when I got into the team. It wasn't to do with any players, but now the players are most important. You know, they're bigger than the manager. The wages they're on, and you can't shout at players now or tell you what you think, because you'll have their agent on the phone speaking to you. So times have changed, and you've got to be able to deal with that. And Mikel Arteta obviously has been around good people, Pep Guardiola, Arsene Wenger, he played under. He knows as a player, the dressing room area is so important because he's been in dressing rooms himself. So if there is a problem, he has to deal with it very quickly. And whether it's individual or collectively as a group, you have to deal with it very, very quickly. Because if it does get out of control, the only person to lose their job is not the players, because they're on contracts and, you know, you can't get rid of players. It's the manager straight away. And so hopefully he can turn that around and make sure, you know, he sorts that out very quickly.
Yeah, it's amazing how that power balance has shifted with players and
the
managers.
Players have got all the power.
Yeah.
Players have got so much power now. Again, I go back to my area. It was the manager had the power, the club had the power, but now it's totally shifted to the other way.
Yeah, like what are you going to do? Find someone? They don't care. So Southampton tomorrow. That suddenly looks, far trickier than it might have at the start of the season. You know, it's funny you say there Arsenal aren't a sacking club. There are parallels with Manchester United, the Ferguson era, and Arsenal, the Wenger era. Manchester United, you know, told the world we're not a sacking club, and of course when you have Alex Ferguson, you're definitely not a sacking club. Why would you be? But you quickly get into, you know, 2 years in, crisis. Before you know it, you're onto is that our third, fourth manager? And, you know, Emery got 16 months. Arteta's into 12 months now. You know, would you bank on him getting to 18? It suddenly becomes really tricky. Where are the owners in all of this, Ray? Are they unpopular with the fans, I would presume, the Kroenke family, are they?
Well, yeah, they're trying to turn it around. I think the son there, Josh, is getting involved, and and trying to, you know, build bridges with the fans, which is very important. You know, you've got to be able to respect. You know, you look at Chelsea with Abramovich and look at Man City with their owners now, and, you know, they just probably look at it and say, you know, we need a bigger budget if we want to challenge. But it's tougher now. I mean, if you again, I'll go back to my era. It was probably only Arsenal, Manchester United who probably could win the league. You know, Liverpool wasn't as good as they were. Manchester City wasn't even in the league at that time. So, you know, times have changed again. Lots of people thrown money at clubs and said, right, okay, we're going to gamble. The most important thing, you get your right manager. You've seen that over the years. Jurgen Klopp now. You know, the first 2 seasons, he wasn't very successful, but they knew they had someone who could really build the club and go forward. And they said, right, okay, what do you need? Van Dijk, 75 million, there you go. Now we need a goalkeeper. Right, there you go, 60 million for that. And Man City have been the same as well. So I think the supporters are waiting for that to happen for Arsenal as well. You know, they see how much money's worth. They see how much money the Conquets are worth, and thinking, well, where's the investment in our club? And that's probably where the difference is with the supporters and the owners. But as I said before, at the moment, there's no fans. And whether that's helping or not, I don't know. Because you know what it's like. I think in the end, Arsene Wenger was sacked because no fans were turning up at the stadium in the end. They had enough of the Arsene Wenger era. And I was going to the games, it was half empty. And the board had to make a big decision to say, right, this is not right. You know, our stadium is half empty. They don't want the manager there. We have to make a decision. So whether the fans will turn up now with how they're playing, I don't know. You know, they can't turn up at the moment, so maybe it's a blessing in disguise for Mikel Arteta.
I'd say it was at full time at the weekend. I'd say Arteta was damn glad they weren't there.
Especially 4 defeats this year at the Emirates. I mean, that's not known. It's usually they're pretty good at home, pretty strong.
Yeah. And
away from home they struggle, but it's been the other way around this year.
And so, like, to be fair to him, I mean, 12 months is not much time in the job either, you know, but it's a results business. Do you like what he's trying to do with the team? Like, tactically, are you seeing signs of, well, I like that, and given time, this is going to work? Or is the jury still a little bit out in your head?
Well, I think Partey was a great signing. We haven't seen the best. Obviously, he hasn't been playing. He's been injured here and there. I want to see him with a run of games in that midfield area, because one place where you've got to be strong. You've got to be strong in that central midfield area. And you've got to be mobile. And I don't think we've got players who are mobile enough. You know, Xhaka's not mobile. Sabas, when he comes in, he's one-paced, and you're probably not quite easy to mark, if I'm being honest with you. He's good on the ball. He's a good passer, but you could run past him no problem if I was a midfielder. So I need that. You need that little bit more strength in midfield. He's been, you know, obviously he's tinkered with the back three and obviously back four at times. Back three looked like he was going, well, we ain't creating enough chances. So I went with a back four, obviously with another attacker going forward. But he's still learning players, and he's got to get that right formula and then stick with it. And that is a hard job. You know, once you get that winning mentality back and that belief and confidence, you know, say if they do beat Southampton in midweek, that would give them a massive lift. That's the win they needed. And then they can look at the weekend, which is another difficult game. You know, every single game is difficult in the Premier League. Everton at Goodison, and they just beat Chelsea. So there's no easy games, and you've got to get results. So this is where you've got to stand up and be, you know, you've got to say, right, okay, it's going to be a tough game today. We've got to stand up and make sure we're solid as a team. Everybody knows their jobs, and try and get a result. And at the moment, they're too easy to beat at the moment, Arsenal.
Yeah. Geez, when you lay it out like that, this could be a treacherous week for them. One last Arsenal point. The Mesut Ozil situation looms large as well in the corner. You know, you've got your highest paid player at the club, 350 grand a week, and it's a mess. And already now, because results are starting to go, the mumblings, you know, you're weakened as a manager, so the mumblings are like, well, maybe you should bring Ozil back, and Ozil would improve the team. And like, oh, that's a lot of humble pie to eat, to go back cap in hand to Ozil and say, can we be friends again? What's gone on there? It seemed like for a time that Ozil was part of the plans, and that there was the pay cut dispute around then, and Ozil had some things to say, and now it's just like it's over. It's finito.
Yeah. I don't. Again, we don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know what his attitude's like in training every single day. I know Mikel Arteta has been picking the youngsters who maybe look like they're training better. It's a big problem again. You look at the dressing room area. Mesut Ozil will be around that dressing room area. And when they're losing games, they'll be talking to other players and saying, well, you know, why not? I should be involved. And suddenly it's a snowball effect, and it could really affect you. So I'm sure that, you know, they've made that decision now that he's not going to play. Whether it's right or wrong, you know, when you're having good results, no one looks at who's not playing. So suddenly, when you're having a bad run like Arsenal are having, everybody looks behind the scenes like, right, what other players have we got? And the first one they're going to look at is Mesut Ozil, because he is a quality player. We know that. But there's a falling out somewhere along the line, and we don't know what the falling out is. It'll all come out probably when he leaves and he explains the situation. But at the moment, it looks like Mikel Arteta will never pick him again. And his contract runs out, obviously in the summer. So, I don't think he'll ever play again for Arsenal. But I can understand why the mumbles behind the scenes are saying, well, why is Mesut Ozil involved? Because at the moment, creativity is lacking at Arsenal. They're not finding the balls for Aubameyang and Lacazette, and straight away you look at Mesut Ozil to maybe be the man to answer that problem.
Yeah. God, it's messy. Right, we'll park Arsenal.
It's messy. It's definitely messy. Well, Lionel Messi, I wouldn't mind him.
Yeah. Big picture, this is an odd season, isn't it? It's turning into, we're seeing odd results. You're seeing, God, everything from Liverpool at Villa Park to just, dropping points they wouldn't usually drop. And Spurs have turned it around. It's hard to know where Man City are. There's a flatness about that situation. Aguero is back now, I guess. Manchester United are still sort of teetering. But it is odd. We're seeing results that we haven't seen in the Premier League for a long time from the very top clubs. It's hard to know, is that scheduling? Jurgen Klopp would tell you it is. If it's, the COVID break was just weird and then the schedule is so difficult now. If it's the lack of crowds, I don't know. Do you think the quality is down when you're watching games from the top teams as opposed to the last couple of years? It doesn't feel like we're watching quite the same levels.
Well, certainly defensively, early in the season, it was there was goals flying in everywhere. No expected Villa to score 7 against Liverpool's defence. So defensively, I think it's the pressure probably a little bit off the players in games now with no crowd. And when you're through on goal, and it's like a training session now. I know you're playing for 3 points still, but when you're going through on goal and there's crowd there, and suddenly you panic, and you see a lot more missed efforts. It's probably easier to score goals. In recent weeks, it's gone down a little bit, but I think this league's wide open this year. I really do. I think it could be. I know Leicester won it a couple of years, 3 years ago, and it massive price of 5,001. But I think it's wide open. Really, you look at Liverpool, Man City. I think there will be there and thereabouts. But you as you mentioned there, Spurs, Chelsea. Then they just come off a 1-0 defeat against Everton. I think Frank's got a very good squad. He's got a few injuries at the moment. Ziyech has been excellent since he's been a Chelsea player. Then you look at likes of Leicester again, who, Brendan Rodgers has done a wonderful job there to keep going. And then you look at Wolves getting there, West Ham are having a great season, Southampton, who we mentioned just a minute ago. So I think it's a wide open league this year. One thing we're not going to get is what happened last year, where Liverpool ran away with it and the season was over come March time. I think it's going to go down to the last 4 or 5 games, and whoever's in the mix, then it comes into pressure, and knowing you have to win the game. Whether we're going to have crowds back at the end of the season, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly at the moment, this league is wide open, and we do a prediction league every week down a local, and me and Alan Brazil, and we get them wrong every week, and the punters are beating us at the moment. So it just shows you it's a nightmare to pick at the moment scores.
Every time I look at your Twitter feed, you and Alan Brazil are having a drink somewhere. Honestly, the life you two are living.
No, it's good fun, Alan. It's good fun. Obviously, we've gone back into Tier 3 now, so that won't be happening. But he's great too. He's great. He's a nice socialiser, Alan. I do get on with him.
I'm sure he is. On the Liverpool thing, so look, they had a great run with injuries for a long time. The last couple of years, the Champions League winning year and the league last year. And Van Dijk goes down. That changes a lot. Alisson's had his moments now. Diogo Jota's going to be out for 2 months. Mane hasn't scored in 8 games, I think, which for him is, constitutes famine territory. But there's a kind of fatigue maybe about things as well. And the thing that jumps out, Ray, is Jurgen Klopp doesn't seem to be enjoying life quite as much as he was in previous years. There's a strain there, the Des Kelly interview and all that kind of stuff. Maybe it's the price of success, that it's more difficult to stay on top than to get there. But there's just something not quite humming at Liverpool.
Well, I think everybody expects Liverpool to win week in, week out. I mean, the record at home is unbelievable. They set their standards so high that when they drop under that, there's always going to be question marks. You can't play like that every single week, and it's impossible to do that as a player, as a team. You're going to have your blips in the season. I know last year it was an amazing season. They only lost 1 game to Watford. But, this season, there's a little bit more pressure on you because you've got to retain the title now. You've had that high of winning it. Now, suddenly, every team wants to try and beat you even more now. And can they retain the title? So there's a little bit more pressure on you as well. They've had their injuries, as you mentioned there. Van Dijk is obviously a big player for Liverpool. Not just for his leadership qualities, but the people around him seem to improve as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson at left back, and whoever's playing alongside, whether it's Gomez, Matip. Fabinho have done a good job, to be fair. Who sat in there. Jota's going to be a massive miss, 6 to 8 weeks out. So, you know, you get problems when you don't expect it, and you've got to deal with that. But you can't be moaning, really. I mean, if you're a top side, if you're Man City, Liverpool, and you look at their squads they've got, the bench they've got, and then you look at other teams like West Bromwich Albion, Fulham, and them sort of guys. I mean, their squads are bare. They lose 2 or 3 key players, they're in trouble. So I think you just got to get on with it. But I like to see it from an outsider, because now it makes it a lot more interesting. And we saying Liverpool struggling. Look at the league table; they're still doing okay for me. Yeah. I mean, they're only a point behind, and it's still going okay for them. So, you know, once they start clicking into gear again, and look, I don't know how long Van Dijk's out and people are out, but I'm sure Liverpool will be back to winning games. And it's been a tricky game this weekend, though. I'm looking forward to that one, Liverpool Spurs this weekend. How they set up, and you know who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do suspect Liverpool will click into gear at some stage. A final one then on Spurs. Like, it really did feel like Mourinho was yesterday's man for a while. It looked like the I don't know what, the je ne sais quoi about Mourinho had gone. There was a spark missing. And, I mean, look, COVID has been no fun for anyone. It came at a good time for Spurs if you're just focusing on the football side of things, in that Kane was out, Son was out, they were in a bad place. Geez, he's turned things around, Mourinho, in a big way.
Absolutely, yeah, he has. I mean, the players are playing for him. You can see the energy levels. I think Højbjerg's been a great signing for them. I think they've been missing a player like him for quite a few years, who just sits in that midfield, breaks things up, gives it to the better players. Harry Kane is playing a different role now. He's dropping off, and he's very intelligent on the ball, Harry. He can score a goal as well, we know that. I don't want to see him not getting in the box and scoring the goals like he used to, but he's certainly a little bit different. You've got Son, who's on fire at the moment, who's been excellent. You know, good partnership, them two. But for me, it's the defensive unit. It's how they defend games now. If you look at them against Manchester City, at the Tottenham Stadium, they sat back. They're playing a different way now. They hit you on the break. They've got a lot of pace going forward. And when Harry picks the ball up in good area, you know the pass is going to be 30 yards in front of Son, and he's got a chance one-on-one on the goalkeeper. So that's the beauty of Harry Kane being in there, and he can do that sort of job. But defensively, they're standing games, and then they're hitting you on the break. They've done it against Chelsea. I know they didn't win that game, and it was a bit of a stalemate in the second half. But to go to Stamford Bridge and get a point, that's a good point for Spurs on their road. So, they're playing a different way, and I think they do exactly the same at the weekend. They let Liverpool have the ball, and Liverpool will expect to go forward and try and win the game, and then Tottenham will hit them on the break. And it's going to be an intriguing game to see how managers see that, and who comes out on top. But certainly defensively, they'll be an excellent Spurs. Yeah,
I think Lampard almost knew. He's like, I know what you're about here, Jose. I'm not falling for it. So they almost cancelled each other out. By the way, you keep saying the weekend. This match is on tomorrow. I don't want you to miss this match tomorrow. Spurs-Liverpool tomorrow.
Oh, is it tomorrow? Yeah,
yes.
I can't wait. I definitely. That's one thing about being in Tier 3 now, and how they stagger the games. You can more or less watch every game.
Every day,
it's not good. It's not good if your kids want to do something. No, I've got to watch this football. So you can watch football all day if you want. And obviously, Premier League's always an exciting league anyway. There's always ups and downs in for all the teams, and that's why it's such an exciting league to watch.
Certainly is this year. Listen,
definitely.
You've got the Christmas decorations up. Have a very nice couple of weeks. Enjoy yourself. Ray Parlour, thanks so much. Good to chat to you.
Cheers, guys. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, likewise. Take it easy. Ray Parlour there. All of this evening's show is to celebrate Paddy Power's week-long session. We're giving away 12 Paddy Power hampers. Each one includes chocolate, socks, a hoodie, all sorts of goodies. To be in with a chance of winning, just identify our mystery voice who says, once the lights go on, Nathan Murphy is a different animal.
As soon as the music for the intro is finished, he literally turns into another person.
If you know who that is, text your name and answer. 53106, 30 cents. We'll contact you later today. Remember, you must be over 18 years of age, all with thanks to Paddy's week-long session. For information on responsible gambling, you can visit gamblingcare.ie or dunlewey.net. That's DUNLEWEY.net for all the information you need.